Episode 1, Into the Spider's Web. Whispers of Celeste, the Lady of Plagues, returning to the shores of Crystallia have begun to spread. Spawn points have begun to corrupt. The undead are more aggressive in nature. An adventurer group has been sent to aid the Order of Light in their battle against an army of the undead. However, these undead are unlike anything the group has ever faced. But what's even more worrisome is that the Warriors of Light have taken on an abysmal appearance and have turned on the living themselves. What is the source of this delusion? Find out as our adventuring party ventures through the lands of Glowerdoom Moor and Vondrax Manor, where a faint green glow now emanates between countless webs of spiders. Hello nerds and chibi adventurers, welcome to the Plague Throne, aka WOSDEC's first ever narrative dungeon battle report. So, we're going to go through the heroes right now who are traversing this dungeon with us. We're also going to show you how to set up your chosen hero's character sheet for the adventure. So right now we're going to lead in with Druthalion, who was my representation of me in the game before any of this became a possibility. So we're going to start with him because obviously he's a little bit of me in here. The hero card, as it says, is Druthalion. You can name him whatever you want if you're using him for your own personal purposes. So, for instance, if you wanted to name him Lord Larry of Udamare, you could absolutely do that. Player, straightforward. Who is the person that owns this hero in their guild roster? In this case, it would be me, Drew. He's level 1. He has no experience because we just started out. He's got a movement of 6 and 3 actions. Now, his stats are easy to record as well. He has 2 red dice in strength, 2 blue dice and 1 red dice in armor, 3 blue dice in will, and 2 blue dice in dexterity. He has 5 maximum health and 1 maximum potion. So you will notice that there are some extra black and white hearts and potions listed there. You'll fill those out as you level up because you'll be able to increase your max stats on all of these as you go. Now down the bottom you will notice that it says crafting specialty. You'll be able to unlock this and choose what specialty you want as you reach higher levels. There's an armor crafter, a weapon master, a potion maker, an engineer, a mage weaver, and an iron chef. All these have unique recipes that those specialties can make, and only those specialties can make, in addition to the universal crafting recipes that you'll find in the book. Up next, we're going to talk about Toons, your friendly neighborhood necromancer. He uses some dark powers and poison bursts to slay enemies around him, and when he slays enemies around him or others slay enemies around him, he's able to draw on the power of the dead and collect soul tokens. These tokens are a new ability specific to WOSDEC and this hero in particular, where as he collects soul tokens, he can spend them to either use will as his defense roll regardless of any challenges or traps, and he can also use it to reduce the cost of summoning his pet, the Grave Golem. Toons' Grave Golem can either be something that is just an additional melee attacker on the board, giving the enemies an extra target to focus on, or it can be used as a self-destructive corpse bomb, where it can run into a large group of enemies and self-destruct, sending bone shrapnel everywhere, damaging minions, elites, and spawn points alike. It is dangerous, so you don't want to do it around your friends, but a very potent attack if done correctly. You'll notice that Toons, though, even though he is a human character and a human hero, only has 4 hearts for health, specifically because of his ability to use the soul token and use his will as a defense roll. This kind of balances him out and makes him where he's not overpowered to be a tank and a damage dealer all in the same character. What adventuring party doesn't have a dwarf hunter with them? This brings us to our next hero, Obor. Obor is a dwarven hunter who brings with him a pet named Chompers, a bear, who is as equally supportive as he is damaging. Chompers himself has an ability to do an inspiring roar, which will cure status effects of heroes nearby. In addition, he can also do a sweep to attack large groups of enemies in front of him, or he can just do regular attacks that have a solid strength stat. Obor can also empower him to increase his strength by a green die on his first attack. Now, Obor himself is a hunter and a ranged specialist. He's able to put Hunter's Mark on enemies at a distance, automatically giving them Bane. In addition, if enemies get too close to him, he can load his blunderbuss up with darts and do a grape shot of all those in front of him. Obor and Chompers together are a great team, but when you really need to take out a single unit, Obor is your go-to pick. A fantastic character with a fantastic pet. Now, as you would expect with every adventuring party, for every good tank, you need a good healer. In this case, the Minotaur Elementalist is going to fill that role perfectly. Mugashaka, as we've named her, is going to actually be not just a healer, but also a ranged will DPS character as well. Now, she is a Minotaur, so she does look big, she looks tough, but this Minotaur in particular is very in tune with nature, using the elements to heal her companions. Her chain heal works similar to chain lightning and has an ability similar to arc, which will allow you to roll and heal characters and then bounce to the next one, removing dice as you go. It's probably one of the strongest healers in the game, but as we play tested it and used it, we found out it comes in clutch in key moments but is not overpowered. It's just right for what she does and for the amount of action points it takes. In addition, she has a potion which we kind of abused in this run through, if you will, but abused it properly. It allows you to gain a crystal token, which you can discard to avoid incoming damage. Now, that might sound overpowered, however, you're limited by potion use. You can only use it on the hero phase, so you have to set it up hoping you get attacked the next turn, and once you activate again it disappears. It's not a permanent buff. So, it's a fantastic potion ability, joined with excellent healing ability, and considerably good damage. She's a very strong character if used correctly, but she can generate threat pretty quick with that chain lightning, so you have to make sure to manage her wrath really well. So now that we've met the heroes going on this adventure, let's take a look at some of the enemies they're going to come across. On the first tile, you have the Plague Thrower. It's a spawn point gang, something brand new to Super Dungeon. The catapult itself is its own spawn point that also makes attacks. In this case, this spawn point is stationary as the others are. However, unlike other spawn points, this one has minions that will work as spotters, giving it additional attacks, as well as being its eyes for making line of sight to its enemies. Now, in addition to this aggressive spawn point, the heroes are going to encounter the Black Knight's Court. This enemy is the embodiment of a Death Knight as you would see in any role-playing game. He is joined by 4 zombies that, whenever a unique action is called for, he will resurrect up to 4 zombies to buff himself and give himself more hit points by passing those hit points onto those zombies. He's decently armored, moves relatively quick on his undead steed, and does hit like a truck. A definite challenge for our heroes. On tile number 2, you're going to encounter the Plague Stone. The Plague Stone contains 2 gangs that fight uniquely different but complement each other quite well. The Plague Heralds will sit in the back launching magic at the heroes as they come onto the tile, and they will also be resurrecting any undead bone piles that are near them. The Plague Champion will be up front trying to swing at the heroes with his axe, while his undead skeletal minions will boost him for hit points, and when they die, they will crumble into bone piles. Those bone piles will be resurrected by the heralds, making it very hard for the heroes to progress. Now, as we approach tile 3, you're going to encounter the Corrupted Sapphire. It spawns 2 gangs, the Ice Wall and the Standard Bearer. You'll notice that this one has a low model count, but these models are very tough, very hard to take out, and can do a wallop of damage as well as really strong crowd control. The Standard Bearer herself can actually give a buff to all friendly enemies nearby, where she gives them +1 strength, +1 armor. Now that, on a last tile with all the monster chart buffs, is really potent. Now combine that with the Ice Wall, whose Foot Knight Guardians, her minions, are actually sturdy minions. So if the Ice Wall Sorceress herself is critically damaged, those 2 damage points will actually go onto the Foot Knight as 1. You cause massive damage, that additional damage goes onto that sturdy Foot Knight as still only 1 damage, making her very hard to take out. Now, she also has a brand new ability to Super Dungeon called the Wall keyword, where when she casts the spell Ice Wall, you choose your initial target, and then a straight line past that, you'll put down a total of 4 tokens. Those tokens become a wall like you would see on any tile, and they prevent all line of sight, block all movement through, and cannot be flown over. This can cause a party to get split up, it can cause a party to get stuck in a certain area, and it stays until the start of the next console phase. As you'll see in this battle report, it did screw up our party's movement and did separate us a couple of times. It was a really tough tactic to get around, but a really fun one as well. Up next is the mini-boss of the dungeon, the Corrupted Paladin. He's a fast-moving, hard-hitting unit that his unique abilities could give him extra strength, cause knockdown, and he's able to heal his allies in range. Now, as far as mini-bosses go, not necessarily weaknesses, but the downside of him is he's got his average mini-boss armor, average mini-boss strength. He's limited to only range of 2 because he's really a melee character. So while some of these other dungeon bosses and mini-bosses have range 3 or higher, he still likes to be up and close and personal with everything. He only has 6 health, so you could technically crit him off the board in one hero's actions, but, with his armor and buffs from the Mighty Monster chart, doesn't always happen. He has no unique keywords or immunities, but again, still a valid boss that you're going to have to contend with, and watch out for the unique command because he's really going to cause some damage on that. Now let's move on to the star of the show, a fan favorite from her artwork and her mini, the Mistress of Poisons, the Queen of Delusions, Balia, one of the 3 daughters of Jorogumo. Now, this spider sister in particular has high armor, is immune to poison, regenerates. Her signature ability can ruin board positioning for heroes, and her poison effects that she applies cannot be removed by remedy or heal, so your action point economy is going to suffer big time. She is all about controlling the board and manipulating the heroes. As a matter of fact, her signature ability can make heroes attack other heroes if they fail the dice roll. Now, in terms of weaknesses, weakness is a relative term here as well, but more so, she has average strength for a dungeon boss. She's not hitting super hard, but again, her abilities to manipulate the heroes will come into play a lot. Her unique action is less effective if heroes spread out, so if you have one melee tank, and then everything else is some kind of range DPS or spellcaster, you can kind of manipulate this ability in your favor, but it's still potent regardless. Now the last weakness listed here for Balia is that she moves over structures and statue squares, putting herself in harm's way more easily than other bosses. Now, most bosses have to move around statues, blocking terrain, things like that, and it causes them to have the heroes have to maneuver to get in line of sight with them. Balia, because she's an arachnid, doesn't really care about these things and moves over them and around them with ease. So it makes board positioning for the heroes a little bit easier, which is kind of a weakness, but she is up in your face and in threat range quicker, so in that way it actually is kind of a strength. It's kind of a glass cannon situation where she's going to be more aggressive, but is going to make her open to more attacks. So this is where her high armor strength is really going to come in handy, because once exposed, she's going to be able to absorb the blows of the heroes easier than some other bosses would have. So with that, let's get into Hero Turn 1. Up first is going to be Druthalion and Obor. As this is the first battle report, let me break down the screen for you that we'll be using going forward. The top right will say what turn number we are in. The top center will always show you what episode you're on. And on the left hand side is the hero status board. This gets updated at the start of every phase. So at the start of the hero phase, for instance, we're just starting the first hero phase, everyone is set up as they should be. As we enter the console phase, wrath, status effects, health, and potions will all be updated and shown. Now, anything that is faded out or has a transparency to it, such as currently like the Grave Golem, is because it's not in play or hasn't been doled out yet. So for instance, everyone's wrath is currently at 0. So while there's a maximum of 8 wrath available, no one has any yet, so all wrath is going to be faded out on all characters. Characters who can earn more than 1 potion at a time, their second potion is currently faded out as well. Again, these will be updated at the beginning of each phase, hero, and console. So, we decide to open up the combat with Obor going first. He's going to shoot from where he stands. He has a range of 8 on his gun. So we're going to verify that he is in range and has line of sight, which he does. And the first attack roll is going to go. He has 2 red dice and 1 blue on his attack for his dexterity stat. And he's only going to roll 1 star, which is sadly not enough to damage the spawn point. But he still has 2 more actions. On his second attack, he's going to get 2 stars and a potion. We're going to do 1 damage, which is going to remove a minion and replace it with a bone pile token. And a potion is going to go to Toons, because he needs a second potion. Now, with multiple options of looking at what to do, we've decided to have Obor take another shot with his last action, which is going to do 1 star, so it's going to miss. With Obor completing his turn, we're just going to move him up a couple of spaces so he doesn't fall behind on the dungeon tile as we progress through the map. Chompers, his pet, gets to go immediately before or immediately after his activation. So in this case, obviously, he's going immediately after and is going to move up his full movement of 6 squares up to the plague thrower, which is the spawn point. He's going to try and do some damage to it because the sooner we get that out, the sooner enemies can stop spawning on this tile. His first attack roll produces a single wound, giving us a heart and a potion. No one needs a heart because no one's been damaged yet, but Mugashaka is able to absorb that potion and get her second one. We're going to make one more attack with Chompers as he only has 2 actions. And he's going to do 4 stars, which is going to give him a hit, which will remove the other minion and replace it with a bone pile. So Druthalion is going to go, and with his movement he's going to move up, open up the treasure chest with an action point. He'll draw the treasure and see what's inside, but we won't find out till the power phase exactly what it is. Then with his remaining movement points, he's going to move on up. He's going to take a couple of swings at the spawn point itself. With no minions left, we can actually do some damage to it. So his first swing is going to go, and it's a 1, so it doesn't actually wound it, but his second attack has 4 stars, and that's going to cause a wound right on the spawn point itself. Okay, with our heroes completing their actions for the first turn, we're going to move into console turn 1, which has the simple commands of just move and fight. So we're going to move up all of our enemies, and they're all going to take attacks at our heroes with the most wrath. Okay, as you can see, everyone's stats are updated on the left-hand side, and the first thing Druthalion's going to do, being lowest wrath right now, in terms of people who actually have it, is he's going to drink a potion and slurp, giving him 2 more wrath. While he's doing that, the enemy knight is going to move in, and his zombie minions are actually just going to push in around him because they're just minions. So the way minions work in this game is like they worked before, is you move the elite or the main of the group, and his minions will just file in around him and be placed within his control range. So with the console phase in full swing, the Plague Thrower is going to go first with its signature action. It throws a Plague Bomb that has a burst 1, causes Bane and Poison. The first person to make a save is going to be Druthalion, who now has a green dice in his head slot and an additional blue dice in his bottom slot due to the loot and treasure they drew last turn. He's going to make that one easily with a total, I believe, of 8 stars. Up next, Chompers is going to have to make a save against the same attack. Now this attack is strength 2, so all Chompers really needs is 2 stars, but he only rolls a 1. So he will take a wound, and he'll suffer Bane, and he'll suffer Poison. Okay, up next, the Black Knight's going to make 3 attacks at Druthalion. He's surrounded by his minions, so he's a little more powerful, so he's going to do 3 attacks at strength 3. Druthalion is going to save the first one, and he's going to get ready to take attack on the second one. He's going to make that save as well. And then the last attack, Druthalion saves as well, so he takes no damage this turn. And that's going to be it for the console phase. Quick, easy, simple first turn. Okay, up next we have Toons and Mugashaka, aka the Minotaur Elemental, is going next. Okay, coming right into hero turn 2, we have Mugashaka up on deck. She's going to move right on up, her full movement of 6. She really wants to try and get line of sight on this spawn point. She's got some Earth Elemental Blast that she's going to use to really lay some damage into it, or at least attempt to. Her first roll's coming right up right now. We're going to use her will. Despite her size and carrying a large totem that she can beat people with, she actually prefers to manipulate the elements of the world around her. So first attack does not succeed, with only 2 stars, but then she's going to make another attack, which does succeed, causing a damage. And then she's got one more attack coming up, where she will actually roll, I believe it's 5 stars, which normally would be enough to critical wound a creature. However, spawn points are immune to critical effects, so that'll leave the spawn point left with 1 hit point. Okay, so with Mugashaka complete, now Toons is going to go, and our goal really is to take out this spawn point before we get to any kind of spawning commands in the Mighty Monster chart. So we're just moving him up, getting him in range, getting ready to attack with an Eldritch Blast. Or basically just his basic will attack, but he's a necromancer, so I assume he goes Eldritch Blast and then shoots things with his screaming skulls or whatever. Anyway, so we're going to line up for the first attack right now. We're going to hope for the best. He's going to roll, I believe his will is 2 red dice. So let's see what happens. That is a 4 on the dice, which is enough to do a damage to the Plague Thrower, which is the spawn point, which means he is out of the game. Now, it is important to note there are other events and options and trap cards that might be able to bring him back in another fashion, but we're just going to bank on the fact that that doesn't happen and hope for the best. So now that that is removed, we're going to get 2 loot, because you draw 1 loot plus the number tile you're on for any spawn point killed. And then with our remaining 2 actions, I believe Toons is going to turn his attention to the Black Knight now, try and take him and his minions out. So Toons is now going to turn his attention to the Black Knight, trying to do some damage before his turn's over. First roll is going to give us nothing, and the second one is barely going to wound him. And the Black Knight's going to pass off that wound to one of his minions in range, so the zombie closest to Toons is actually going to be removed from the board. Okay, and that'll end Toons' turn in terms of attack. As you'll see, we're going to reposition him towards the end here and do a little bit of cleanup and maintenance on the board. But now that the Plague Thrower spawning point has been defeated, the arcade plot's going to come into effect. The arcade plot is we place 2 crystals in the last dungeon tile. One next to an open doorway, the other one in a different open doorway. So this way they're not right next to each other. The way the crystals work is if there's 2 in play, you cannot harm the dungeon boss. If there's 1 in play, you can only do a single wound from a single action, meaning you can't massive damage and you cannot critical wound. So it's only a single damage. If no crystals are in play, you can do everything you want as normal to the dungeon boss, crit, massive damage, all that good stuff. Now, a hero may spend a single interact action to remove a crystal from play. So our goal is to really remove those crystals so we can just unload every spell and ability we have and wipe out that dungeon boss as quick as possible. Now we're going to move on to the console, turn 2. Alright, with that all taken care of, we're going to move into console, turn 2. 3 commands: move, fight, and reinforce. Reinforce allows elites to reinforce their gang with minions that have been removed prior. So that one zombie we had, he's going to come right on back. So looking at the setup here, it's looking pretty good. The Black Knight, we're going to try and move him around. He's got movement he can take. We're going to see if there's a better spot for him to be where he's a little bit safer but still able to reach Druthalion. After messing around, kind of looking, this is where we wind up placing him. Now he's going to attack with those same 3 attacks at strength 3. So the first attack's going to come in, and it's only going to be 2 stars on the dice. Now, Druthalion drew a loot in the last turn that allows him to have an automatic star on every armor save, so he will have 3, which will tie the attacker and barely save him a damage. Now the second attack he's going to do much better, much higher than 3, and he'll be alright from that attack. Coming into the third attack, we're going to make 1 more save, which is going to go very well, and he's not going to take any damage. While your tactics will vary in the game, one of the things that I like to do is always try and get that first tile chest, because as you can see here, that green dice is making a huge difference in Druthalion being able to make these saves. So always going for that treasure in the first tile is a tactic I like to do, even if it means not killing the spawn point, because the potential benefits of drawing a really powerful treasure outweigh the benefits of just trying to take out that spawn point and hopefully get it. So again, I'd probably be getting my butt kicked right now, but that green treasure is really keeping me in. Okay, with that turn complete, we're going to go to hero turn 3, where Druthalion and Obor will activate once more. Okay, heading into hero turn 3, we got Druthalion up first. The reason we want him going first is because Obor is looking to do some damage. Druthalion's consecration ability, which we're going to use right now, is actually dependent on more models being alive than not. He gains 1 wrath for every enemy model within wave 4 of himself. So wave 4 is an attack or ability that generates from the model and goes out X number of squares based on the length listed on the card. So in this case, wave 4 is 4 squares. So I'm going to generate 5 wrath for Druthalion just for being near those guys. It's 2 action points, so it is a little costly to do, but well worth it when you're trying to do threat management in the game. So with 1 action point remaining, Druthalion's going to take a swing at the closest zombie next to him. 1 star will actually be enough to take him out, as the zombies have 0 armor for saves. So by taking at that minion, not only does he take it off the board, but he will also gain an additional wrath, giving him even more threat in the game. Okay, with Druthalion completed, we're going to start moving Obor into attack range. He's going to try and start taking out these minions at range. So again, 0 armor, all you need is 1 star to really succeed. So he's going to line up his blunderbuss and shoot at the first one right in front of him. Alright, first roll in. We'll get 2 stars, which again, against armor 0, is plenty to take out a minion. Now, Obor's trying to take out that one in the back, and right now we're discussing whether or not he can get line of sight. It's currently blocked by a statue that's in the way, and he can't see past the Black Knight because he's that much bigger than the minion. So, with movement remaining, we're going to move Obor around to really get line of sight here. So we're going to move him 1, 2, 3, or 2, sorry. And we're going to roll, and we're going to wipe that one out. Alright, with defeating that minion, we're going to peel him off, and Obor's going to use his last action to do Hunter's Mark on the Black Knight, which is 1 action point to put Bane on him, which is going to reduce his armor by 1. Making him a little bit easier for Chompers to take out. Chompers only has 1 action, so we're hoping that he does some kind of critical success here or something. But either way, we're hoping he at least just wounds. So with that being said, here comes his dice roll. And there's the total number of dice. Not enough for a crit, but enough to wipe out that remaining minion. And that'll end Chompers' activation. Okay, we're going to move right on into console turn 3 with move, challenge, spawn, and heavy armored. The heavy armored command is basically all enemies are going to get +1 automatic armor success, but you get to draw a loot for every 2 minions destroyed instead of 3. Moving right along into console turn 3, the Black Knight's going to try and move away from Truthalion, but still maintain threat range. The only way to do that is to just move him back a couple of squares, and then we're going to draw the challenge card for the phase. So this challenge card is whenever a hero takes a wound, if there is not an adjacent allied hero next to him, he takes another wound. So that's pretty significant because 3 successful hits and most characters are down. So we want to be real careful and position ourselves properly when going in the next phase. The next console command is going to be spawn, where we put the zombies back. Oh my god, death on the board! The violence! Should have rated this R. Just kidding. We accidentally knocked over Truthalion with my large hands. We put him right back where he was. Game state is still preserved. Zombies are back, and we're going to go into the heavy armored command, which is all enemies will get +1 armor on the hero phase, and instead of drawing loot for every 3 minions killed, you get to draw for every 2. Rolling into the hero turn 4, where Toons and the Minotaur Shaman are going to go next. So we're going to open up turn 4 with Mugashaka coming in. She's going to move forward, and just so you guys know, Mugashaka is the Minotaur Shaman. It's what we named her, so I'm just going to call her Mugashaka going forward because that's her character name. Same thing, so don't get confused. It's just something that makes us giggle as we're filming this, so we're just going to keep doing it. She's going to open up with her Chain Lightning ability, which allows you to shoot a fork of lightning into an enemy, and then it'll bounce around other enemies within range. So it is important to note that the heavy armored command right now only affects the elites, bosses, mini-bosses, and solos. It doesn't actually affect the minions, so 1 star in the first zombie is going to be successful. Then, with that done, we're going to move on to the second zombie because he is within range 2, but again, he's armor 0, so just 1 star here will be enough to wipe him out, and we get it with ease. So he's gone. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to talk about, you know, amongst ourselves what we were doing. We were figuring out if is it worth to go for the zombie or to go for the Black Knight. So we actually decided to go for the Black Knight at this location, which is going to be 3, which will take out the zombie, and then because he's going to shovel the wound off, he's going to shove 1 over to the zombie in the corner. So 1 last attack roll, 1 star is surprisingly enough. Now, with 1 action left, there's a few different options she can go for here, but I think what we're going to do is we're just going to try and do some more damage to the Black Knight, so hopefully Toons can get up and in there and really just take it out with his spellcasting ability. So right now Mugashaka is going to line up, summon the powers of earth and lightning and storm, and just make a basic will attack here. So here we go. We're checking the range right now. She can see past Obor and Truthalion, because friendly heroes do not block line of sight. Plus the Black Knight is on a larger base, so you can see him anyway. Here we go. 1, 2. We're not going to do anything. Now it's important to note that the Bane token there, I forgot to remove at the end of the last turn. He was not Bane this turn, should not have been Bane this turn. That's my flub up, because at the end of every model's activation, they remove any stats effects such as Bane, Fire, and things like that. So now with Muga's remaining movement, we're going to try and move her up because we are going to try and start getting to these other tiles because enemies are going to start spawning on them. And right now we're also trying to take out the elite. So Toons is going to go next. He's going to try and move on up and get in a position where he can be in range, but also get where he's not really left behind on this tile as we start moving forward. But we looked at a few different options and we wind up moving him up to here. And now Druthalion, Olbor, Toons, and Mugashaka have a little bit of a conga line going as he makes his first attacks. 2 does not do anything. The next attack of 3 will do a wound. And then with this third action, he's going to unleash one more Eldritch Blast and do nothing, unfortunately. As is the story of most Necromancers and Warlocks, Eldritch Blast doing no damage. So far, we've had a pretty decent run. Nothing that challenging yet. But leading into console turn 4, we have Move, Fight, Challenge, all spawning points spawn, and the plot card. Now, the nice thing is the plot cards already happen because when you exterminate the spawning point in the first tile, it automatically triggers. But now, the 2 remaining spawn points are going to start dumping some enemies out on the board, and that's really going to increase the challenge of this dungeon. You have only a certain amount of turns really to kind of clear the first tile, which we're pretty much on track on. Maybe a little slower than we would have liked, but the challenge is really about to kick up here, so here we go. So, for the movement command, Black Knight's really not going to go anywhere. He's in prime position for where he wants to be. He's far enough away from threat, but also within range to attack Druthalion. So, he's going to make his 3 attacks at Druthalion, as he always has every turn. The defense rolls are going to be good for the first one. Second one's going to happen. And that one's going to pass as well. Once we collect all those dice, we're going to go on to the third attack. And that third attack is going to be defended as well. We've been very fortunate with our threat control here, as Druthalion's been able to hold it down in terms of having the most wrath and having that great red treasure item that gave him green armor to his head. It's really given us an advantage in controlling threat and maintaining low damage output from the enemies. But as you can see here on the larger screen and a little bit in the upper corner of the main screen, the other spawning points are now going to spawn. So instead of having just one tile of monsters to contend with, the other 2 tiles are going to spawn and they're going to start heading our way. This is going to be really, really tough at increasing the trouble we're going to have in terms of maintaining threat and dealing damage, figuring out how to handle each of these different units' attacks. So it went from being a pretty controlled fight to now it's going to become more of an open melee. But we still have to try and maintain our threat and get our tank all the threat and damage focused on him. Okay, doing a quick little camera shift there. We're going to go so we cover more of the second tile and the third tile. And it's important to know that we drew the challenge card, where basically if the heroes move, they're going to gain wrath. Fantastic. Okay, that resolves that console phase. We're going to go into hero turn 5. Once again, Druthalion and Olbor will activate. So we're going to open up the turn with Olbor shooting into the Black Knight right from where he is. Unfortunately, he's only going to roll 1 star this time, even with all those dice that you see, following tradition of bad luck for Olbor. And he's not going to cause a wound. But he's a little more hopeful with the second shot that we're going to take. Again, same amount of dice from his stats and his equipment. And he actually is going to cause a wound this time. With his last action, we're going to give Chompers the green dice from Olbor. Chomper's going to move up. He's going to take a massive swing at this Black Knight with his bear claws. He's going to get a total of 6 successes, which is 5 or more than double his armor stats. So that's a critical success doing 2 damage. So that's going to wipe out the Black Knight completely. And then Chomper still has some movement left, and we're actually just discussing here where we're going to move him, because obviously we want to keep bringing him up. So we're actually going to move him up the remainder of his 5 movement points that he had left. And we're going to spend an action point to actually have him just gobble up one of those bone pile tokens, just in case something can resurrect it. And that's going to end Olbor and Chomper's activation. With Chompers done, we're going to get Druthalion into the action now. He's going to move his full movement all the way up to the edge of the board, which unfortunately is not enough to really put him in range of anything. So we're going to spend an action point to get 2 movement points out of him, because that's a general action anyone can do. And we're going to put him right up in between 2 of those skeletal minions, as we call them. And he has an attack roll of 2 red strength. So against the first one, he needs to beat a 1. Easily done. First one's gone. Now he's going to turn his attention onto the second one, take a swing, and we'll see what happens. Yep, 6 stars, definitely dead. And after that, he's actually going to drink Mugashaka's potion, which heroes can share potions, by the way. General rule of the game if you did not know. He's going to gain a crystal token, which means until his next activation, if he takes damage, he can actually sacrifice that crystal token to negate it. Very helpful, very useful support potion. Console turn 5. Console turn 5, we are going to spawn the first mini-boss, or in this case, the only mini-boss to this dungeon. If you do dungeons with more tiles than 3, there'll be multiple mini-bosses, but in this case, we have the one. Then after that's going to be move, unique, and fight. Okay, as you can see, we did another little bit of a camera shift here to capture more of the upcoming board, where we have the third tile and the second tile more in focus this time, because now the first tile is clear. First thing we're going to do is we're actually going to spawn that mini-boss as the Mighty Monster chart instructed us to do. So we have the Corrupt Paladin coming in. I've realized that if I put him right by our side, closest to the camera, we would have a hard time really positioning, so we put him on the other side so he could get right into the action, which is really what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to build it to the player's advantage. You're really supposed to have the arcade or AI of the game really kind of be aggressive towards the heroes. So we're going to move the Dark Champion, filing in his minion behind him, which again, minions just get placed. So those two are lined up with Druthalion. Now we have the 2 casters in the distance that have range 8. They're going to position so they stay within each other's elite gang. However, they're both going to be within range to start blasting Druthalion with magic. Should hurt, should be a great time. So now they're going to do their unique actions. We checked a bunch of ranges. The only one who's really in range to do anything is the Paladin with his unique action, which is going to cause knockdown at a higher strength. But Druthalion rolls and he makes a save. Plenty of stars, doesn't suffer the effects. So up next is the fight command. We're going to roll a bunch in the corners. You'll see Druthalion makes them all. Some of you might think that might be boring, but it's really not, and I'll explain why. Druthalion drawing that treasure in the first turn, giving him a green dice and armor, has made his saves at the midpoint and low point of this game crucial. He's making them all, he's drawing the threat, he's letting the other characters do what they need to do in terms of damage, healing, summoning, supporting, whatever they want to do. So, again, for me personally, the strategy is always to try and get that first treasure chest if you can, like right away. Because it does give you a really good item where it's either armor or you can do a ton more damage with one of your damage characters. It's really, really worth it. So, again, he's going to take a bunch of attacks right now that, we're not super deep in the game, so the enemies aren't fully powered up yet. But as status effects start to get applied, such as Bane and Hex, it's going to weaken our heroes. And as you'll see as the dungeon report goes on, we do take a few losses. We take many losses. But it's really, really good. And like I said, going for that treasure chest can be crucial, and it's really saved our... With the group moving forward and Druthalion making a bunch of saves, we're going to move right on into Hero Turn 6, bringing Toons and Mugashaka to the forefront. Let's see what they can do. So again, one of the biggest things in this game, and one of the keys to victory, is really taking out spawn points as fast as you can, because as long as spawn points remain in play, they're going to just keep bringing in enemies. So we're going to bring Mugashaka up first with her Elemental Blast, her basic will attack, and she's going to try and take out this Plague Stone. Now, she's going to get 3 attacks here. The first one is going to be success with 5 stars, and that's going to cause a single damage over there. Now, it's important to know that if you don't have an Emerald Affinity, or if you're within 2, you have to reduce your successes by 1 star. She has an Emerald Stone, and she's out of that aura, so she's okay. We're going to move on to the second attack now. Make a roll, and that one should be successful as well. And we're all set. We're going to take another wound over there. Now, on the third attack, right now she's going to swing and she's going to miss. She's only going to get 1 star with that Earth Blast. You saw he re-rolled a dice there. It's because it was cocked. It was on its side in the dice tray. And what we decided to do is use Druthalion's once per phase ability of re-roll an attack roll or a defense roll. Something that we haven't been using in this battle report, as you can see, because we forgot about it. So we used it here, and what a time to use it. It was karma coming back to us where we missed again. That's what we get for not using it sooner. Okay, up next, now that Mugashaka is done, is we're going to have Toons come up, see what damage he can do to these little minions and elites going on up here. He's going to move up right by Druthalion, and right now we're kind of discussing placement of where he wants to end his movement, because he has enough soul tokens, which are an ability I described earlier in the video, where he's going to use all of them. He's going to summon in the Grave Golem for free. So he's actually going to slide to where he can summon it adjacent to him, and he's going to drop it right next to the elite and minion there. The big Grave Golem coming in. Here we go. Boom. There it is. This massive construct has a lot of cool abilities. Oh, I say a lot. He's got 2 cool abilities, but he's there. He's going to get some extra attacks out on these guys. First up, Toons has to finish his activation. His first attack is going to miss. His second attack is going to hit and provide a potion to someone. So we're going to be able to remove that minion. Then he's going to make one more attack on this elite dark champion here, where he's going to swing and roll absolutely nothing again, which is, what are you going to do, you know? So now the Grave Golem's going to go. First attack is going to cause a wound on the elite, and then he's going to make a second attack where he's going to do just 1 star, so he's not actually going to damage it. But he's going to get a Wrath, which he's going to take back from Toons, who just earned it, leaving again Druthalion with the most Wrath. So remember when I said that it was going to get harder as we went on? Well, here it is. Star bonus, +1 strength to all enemy models permanently. So they're going to be hitting harder every single mini. After that, they're going to move, unique, fight, challenge, and reinforce. This is a pretty hefty turn. Let's see how our heroes withstand the onslaught. Alright, getting back into it with the console phase. Their first command is obviously move. So as I'm moving these guys around, they all want to be within range of Druthalion because he's got the most threat. It is something important to note that I didn't realize that we screwed up while we were playing. I'm only noticing it now that I'm editing this video. Mugashaka should have got 2 Wrath for damaging that spawn point twice. Not a huge error, because it still doesn't really affect anything in terms of Toons would have took 1 and the Grave Golem would have took another. So Druthalion would still have the most Wrath. Again, just a little something that I probably should have took into consideration. It's something I screwed up on, but again, nothing detrimental to the game. So right now we're going to start doing unique actions from the enemies. The first will be the Paladin with his Charging Lance. It's +2 strength, plus an additional 1 strength from the Mighty Monster Chart bonus. Druthalion's going to get hit, and he's not going to make the save. So he is going to suffer the knockdown effect, but we are going to spend that crystal token from Mugashaka's potion that I drank to negate all damage. Now here's the thing to note. It negates damage. It does not negate the status effects. So Druthalion is still knocked down because he failed that save. So as we're discussing the next unique actions and everything going on, I did realize I forgot to put out bone piles for the defeated minions. Again, this is a board game, it's for fun. Not a problem. I remember where they were. We're putting them out, you know, as they should have been, or as roughly close to as possible, you know. So again, error fixed. You know, nobody's perfect, and again, this is a game for fun. So if something like this happens, you know, just make the correction, have fun with it. Okay, we move on to the fight command now for the enemies. The Paladin's going to do 3 attacks on Druthalion, who's going to get a 9 on his first roll. Again, large in part to that helmet that we got in the first turn. He's going to get 9 on a second roll, and I believe he gets 7 on the third roll. So he's looking pretty good in terms of defending here. After that, up next is going to be the Dark Champion, who is going to swing at him twice. Now again, Druthalion's going to have to make defense rolls here. Nothing too crazy. He makes some great defense rolls and is able to stave off the damage from the attacking enemy. Now here comes the big thing. One of the Plague Casters in the back actually has a Plague Bolt that is a burst 1 at strength 4. So one of those is going to go right at Druthalion, and he's going to make a savings throw, which he does. However, Mugashaka is right next to Druthalion, and she's going to have to make a save with her armor, which is only 3 blue. This is why board placement is also critical, but sometimes you just get stuck with what you can do. So she's going to make a roll, and this is going to be against a strength of 4. She rolls 3 stars, so she's going to take a wound and suffer the poison effect. Now, as we resolve that, we're getting ready with 2 more attacks from the casters in the back that are just regular will, you know, attacks, so to speak. They just fire bolts of eldritch energy as well. and they're going to go Truthalion. So for the first savings throw, here we go. Dice are coming up. Again, makes it. And then a second one is coming up where I do believe our mighty hero, great defender, is going to suffer a wound. Oh no! So he's actually going to take some damage. Again, like I said, that +1 star strength is crucial for the enemy console. So now we draw our challenge card. The challenge of this one is Endlessly Lost, where the hero with the most amount of wrath is going to roll their dexterity stat, which in this case is Truthalion, which in this case is not his best stat. A result of 2 or fewer stars will find him placed in the 3rd dungeon tile near any open doorway. So he's going to roll his dex stat of 2 blue dice and hope for the best, because if he is removed from this tile, our threat management goes right out the window, and as you can see by the dice roll, he did not get more than 2 stars. So he is removed from the table. Now in doing this, I notice I flubbed again. But again, easy things that didn't affect the game. The minions and elites on the 3rd tile from that spawn point should have actually moved that turn. They wouldn't have gotten in combat anyway, so now I realize, oh my goodness, let me fix this. So that's why you see me moving them now after we're already in the challenge phase. So no big deal again. It all worked out. It was a lucky mistake. They were so far away, they wouldn't have gotten in combat anyway. And now Truthalion going to get placed near that open doorway at the end. So now the final phase or order given in the console turn is to reinforce, which means minions come back to their elite gangs. Placed within range if possible, should be possible based on what I'm looking at here. And all those little skeletons come back to protect the Dark Champion. Alright, we're going to head right into Hero Turn 7 with Truthalion and Obor having to activate again. Truthalion starting this grand on his butt because he was knocked down by the mighty corrupted paladin. Alright, activating first, we're going to move Truthalion up to the spawn point on the 3rd tile, which is kind of advantageous for that little mishap with the challenge where he got teleported all the way over there. We're going to try and make an attack. He only has 2 red dice for strength, which technically isn't bad, but this spawn point's a little tougher. It has 2 armor on it, so the first attack is going to fail with a 1. We're going to roll again for a second swing with the mighty sword that he wields, and I do believe that is going to fail as well. And it does with only a 2. And then we have 1 more attack left where we're going to swing 1 last time. And there we go. We're going to get 3 stars. We're going to actually do a wound to it this time. And, you know, it's disappointing, hurts a little, but did all he could. And then with his remaining movement points, we're just going to reposition him right over there by the treasure chest and still by the spawn point. Again, when you're playing a game like this, sometimes minis bounce into minis. Just put them back where they're supposed to be. So don't get too critical on that. So, Obor's up next and we're discussing what we're going to do. We think we want to put the Bane token on the Dark Champion, who's actually behind a wall right now. So, first thing we're going to do actually is move Obor in range and have line of sight to him. So he's going to drop that Hunter's Mark on him first, and then he's going to open up with an attack, which is a beautiful critical success. It is 5 or more stars and more than double his current armor stat, which is lowered because of the Bane. Now, he's going to pass both those wounds onto his minions, who are going to be replaced with Bone Pile tokens. Now, something really important to note is Bone Pile tokens stop spawning once you've put them all out. So, it's really, really helpful to get rid of them, but it's also sometimes strategically better to leave them. I don't know. It's a hot debate. You decide for yourself. Next attack is going to be another critical success, wiping out another minion. We are out of Bone Pile tokens, and then he's going to take a wound. And then we have 1 more attack to round it out, which is going to be just a regular wound on him, which I believe was 4 stars. Now, as we figure out what we want to do with Chompers, we actually are going to move Obor up as well. We just wanted to move Chompers to make sure we didn't knock him over, as you can see I have a history of doing. So we got Chompers up there, Obor where he wants to end up. Now Chomper's going to make 2 attacks on that elite. So the first is a success that kills him. Then we're going to move him right on over to the corrupted paladin. Now, it's important to note that I'm moving Truthalion back right now because I noticed that there was a knockdown token over there, and I forgot that Truthalion was knocked down. So he had to sacrifice his movement to stand up. So everything that happened to that beautiful spawning point before didn't happen. I stood up, drank a potion, that's all I can really do. but I am going to use my action points to turn them into movement, so I can actually just move Druthalion up and have him set up for the next turn, which is as good as it's really going to get. And as I so rudely interrupted Chomper's turn to fix that, he's going to take a swing on the Paladin with his last action, and he is going to get a result of 4 stars and do a damage to the mini-boss. Alright, moving right into console turn 7. A fairly good one for the players on this one because it's regroup, challenge, and spawn. So there's no offensive actions really happening, but we are going to have a challenge. Things are going to refill. Mobs are going to come back to life. Not the greatest look, but it's better than getting beaten down for the whole turn. So here we go. So enemies are going to regroup. What that command basically does is it makes elites, minions, all the enemy models move towards the nearest dungeon opening, which is basically any door that isn't connected to another tile. So the ice wall spawn point and the standard bearer are going to go towards that way. The 2 plague casters on the second tile with them are also going to head in that direction, because to get to the other opening is actually really hard to do, because if you're looking at the top view, there's actually a wall stopping them from going in that direction. So they're all going to group up over there. Then we're going to draw the challenge card, which of course is going to be Nimble Fingers, giving you an optional trap to try and defeat, where you select a hero and they roll their dexterity roll for every princess coin that remains. If all the rolls are 3 stars or greater, you will actually get an additional princess coin, which is key to resurrection. However, each one that you fail, you'll lose. So we decided to play it safe since we haven't spent any princess coins yet. We're just not going to do that because it's an optional trap to face. So we're out. In addition, the challenge for the turn is all heroes must use dexterity for their savings throws. Not looking so hot. Moving right along into hero turn 8, Mugashaka and Toons are set to do some damage again. Here we go. So we're going to open up right away with Mugashaka attacking the spawn point. She's going to kill it in 1 shot because it already had 2 wounds on it, which is fantastic. She was poisoned, so she only has 2 actions for the whole turn. So right now we're kind of debating. We're discussing amongst the group what we want to do with her, what's going to be the most effective, what's going to be the most beneficial. And we kind of agree that she should move up, spend her last action point to open that treasure chest, because treasures have that really powerful loot inside of them. And once she does that, we're kind of debating because Toons and the Bone Golem still have to go, so we're going to move her back. So this way, Toons and the Bone Golem can get better positioning and she's out of the way. So now the Bone Golem, right now we're taking a look and seeing how we can position him, because Toons wants to ignite that Bone Golem and have him explode into a ball of bone shrapnel. It is a wave 2 stemming from the Bone Golem, plus 1 red strength die, and it is dangerous. So when we do this attack, Mugashaka is going to have to make a defense roll eventually, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start targeting the big bads first and taking them out, and then we'll worry about Mugashaka possibly taking damage. So up first, we're going to start on the minion in the far corner. We're going to roll, easily taken out. Then we're going to move on to the second minion once we remove that one from the board. Again, he's getting the bonus die because his action gives him plus 1 red die to this entire attack, but it does take all his action points, and at the end of it, he is removed from the board, so it's kind of an all-in sacrificial explosion here. Now, the second minion did get defeated, so now we're going to go on to the elite, who is going to, I believe at this point, get crit for 6. So that's going to be 2 points of damage, which is 1 on the minion and 1 on itself because it can't shove off the extra one. Apologize for the zooming in and out there and the quick removal. I was having a hard time with my big hands getting those tokens out of there and the minions out of there, so sorry for that quick edit. So now he's got to make a roll on Mugashaka, who is going to be attacked with, I think, what is that, 3 successes or 4 successes? Adam rolled it kind of quickly there. And now she has to make a defense roll with her 3 blue dice, which I do believe she does fail and take a wound. But that's okay, because she's still got plenty of health left. She is a Minotaur. They have 6 health base, so she is stronger than most people. Now we're going to have Toons move up and kind of take position. We decide that he's going to kind of just Eldritch Blast the elite that's over there. So he's going to hit him 1, and we're going to get a potion back for anybody who might need it. And then he's going to do a second attack on the elite, hopefully critting it and killing it. which it looks like he does. Oh, rad. So now he's got one action point left with obviously the mini boss paladin still there. He's just going to swing on the paladin and do 1 damage to that, which will end Toons' turn. Overall, good hero turn. So we're going to move right into console phase of turn 8 here. We have move, epic fight, which is the first time you've seen this in this run through. Epic fight means that all fight commands cause 2 damage instead of 1 on any successful attack. Challenge and reinforce. Okay, so first things up, the move command is going to affect all the enemies, minions, elites, etc. First thing we're going to move are the plague casters, who are going to have range 8, so they're just going to try and peek out. Now, the big thing you notice is they're not going after Druthalion, regardless of wrath, etc. I know he doesn't have the most wrath, but it is important to point out in this game that wrath is associated with the tile you're on first, so to speak. So basically, all of these enemies are going to focus on their tile first before they start looking to other tiles. And right now, Toons has the most wrath and activated last on this tile, so they're going to focus on him first. So up first, the paladin is going to attack Toons. Toons is going to use one of his soul tokens to let him use his will for defense. However, he does fail the first one, and he's going to take 2 damage from that. The next attack, he succeeds, again spending a soul token to use his will as defense. And he's going to have 1 more attack coming in from the paladin at him. That he's going to, again, spend a soul token to get more dice on it. And he is going to pass that one as well. Okay, so with those out of the way, now the Plague Burst attack, her signature attack, is going to go targeted on Toons. It's going to be Burst 1, so it's going to hit also Chompers and Mugashaka. And again, the challenge this turn, we got to use Dex for defense. So it's not really looking too great for our heroes, especially during a turn where it's epic fight. So, first defense roll is going to go up for Toons. He has to roll and beat a strength 4 at this point, which I do not know if he can do. So let's take a die roll, see what we get. He does not beat the strength of that attack. That is Toons' last 2 wounds because it's an epic fight. So he is taken out and he is defeated. Up next, we're going to save for Mugashaka, who's going to take 2 wounds as well. And then after that, we're going to have to defend for Chompers, who also doesn't have the greatest dexterity stat. So he's going to be rolling, I believe, 2 blue dice as well. And there's the result. He too is taking 2 damage. So now with the signature action complete of the Burst Plague Bolt, they're looking to see who has priority and who has line of sight. So essentially it's between Chompers and Mugashaka. Muga went last, so she would technically take priority. However, she is behind that wall and they cannot make line of sight to her. So that's going to leave Chompers as their new primary target, where they're going to launch a Plague Bolt right over at him from the Necromancer. So he's going to shoot. Let's see what Chompers is able to get. He's going to fail, and that is going to be 1 dead little bear. Alright, as we go into hero turn 9, we're going to spend 2 princess coins in the power-up phase. We're going to place Toons adjacent to Druthalion, and Chompers is obviously going to come in back next to Obor. So, we're down 2 princess coins now, and we're going to head into hero turn 9 where Druthalion and Obor have to activate. So, this hero turn is going to be pretty uneventful for Druthalion. He's going to spend his first action point to take that treasure chest and open it up and hopefully get us some great loot. He's going to move forward with his movement to try and get onto the second tile, because with the epic fight happening last turn and more on the way, he really needs to get in there and try and grab as much thread as he can. These elites hit pretty hard and they have a lot of status effect elements that affect our ability to fight them. So at this point it's a debate of, do I swing on something or do I actually just keep moving up with my action points? And I decided to just keep on moving up with my action points, bringing me up into the thick of things. So while I may not be gaining a lot of threat this turn, at least I'm up in the thick of it now. Up next is Obor, who's going to move forward and he's going to bane the corrupted paladin with his sights set to take him out and eliminate him from the board finally. His first hit is going to be a critical success. which is going to cause 2 wounds. Now, this is why Bane is so important. Initially, it wasn't going to be a critical hit, and that's what we're discussing right now. However, with Bane, it now makes it more than double his armor stat, which makes it a crit. So he is all set to go. And he's going to attack with the second one, which is going to be even more successes. So it's going to be a second critical hit, which is going to actually defeat the Paladin and remove him from the board, giving us a little more breathing room now that that powerful enemy's gone. Now we're just going to clear off the board and keep going. Olbor's going to finish his movement by moving up a couple of spaces and hiding behind a wall just to give him some cover. And now Chompers, who was brought back with the Princess Coins, is going to come up, and he's going to try and get in between all those minions. He was thinking about possibly just attacking the minions one by one, but then he realized that he could do his Bear Claw sweep, which is a sweep to attack, and if he does that, he'll be able to move forward. He's going to be able to swing and hit 3 enemies as opposed to 2, so that's what he's going for. He's going to actually not roll a success on the first 2 guys, but on the third one he's going to roll, which is actually going to do a damage that the Ice Wall Elite is going to pass down onto one of her Knightly Guards. Not the best hero turn we've seen all game, but still, everyone's on their feet and we're making advances, so everything's good. Consul turn 9 is going to really buff the enemy by giving him +1 armor permanently to all enemies on the board. Not a great thing for us, but hey, we do what we got to do. Then it's going to be followed by Unique, Challenge, and the ability Dark Consul's Wrath, which, if you don't have any wounds on you, you will suffer wounds. Pretty potent here. Is a game balancer. Seems harsh up front, but in actual play, you find it does make it where the dungeon adds a little more threat and challenge. So this unique action is going to cast an Ice Wall. Wall 4, or Wall in general, is a new ability brought to you by the WOSDEC rule system. What it is the starting location is based on your target, and then a wall will head out straight line based on the number of squares listed. So in this case, Wall 4, you have a 4-square wall that will actually become a wall like any other dungeon wall. Now this is specific to the Ice Wall, so it'll block line of sight and will block any movement through it, and you're going to have to roll a defense roll, which Chompers does and fails. So he's going to take a wound, and he's going to suffer the ice effect, meaning he can't use his unique actions next turn. Now we're going to move on to the challenge phase, where we draw the challenge card, and the challenge is basically anytime a hero is attacked, the attacker gets a strength bonus equal to the number of wrath tokens on their target. So, quick turn, but really potent things have happened now. Okay, we're going to head on to hero turn 10. Activating will be Toons and Mugashaka. Here we go. Toons is going to activate first. He's going to move on over and spend an action to pick up one of the arcade plot tokens. Now, Toons did pick up an item that gives him an extra action, so he still has 3 left, which is hopefully enough to take out this spawn point and spawn the dungeon boss and really, begin the end of this dungeon. So he's just going to do 3 basic attacks. The first one's going to cause a wound, beating armor 2. Then he's going to make his second attack, again against armor 2, and it's going to succeed. Now he's got one more basic attack that he's going to make. And when he rolls it, unfortunately, it's just not enough to beat the armor 2. So no wound is taken, the spawning point's still there, and the dungeon boss is not going to spawn just quite yet. Now Mugashaka is going to heal, and that's what this roll is. She has an ability called Chain Heal. It works similar to Arc because she is an elementalist. She actually has the keyword elementalist that changes the way it works. So instead of rolling for damage, you roll to heal, you get the highest result. So in this case, it's going to be 3 stars on one of the dice. You will remove that dice because it's the highest, and then you can move on to the next. However, because of that ice wall, no one else really needs healing around her, and she can't really see anybody. So it is new to WOSDEC, although it is just kind of a reinvention of an existing mechanic with Arc. It's just changed differently for the heal, and it's one of the most potent heals in the game. But like Arc, if she didn't roll any stars, nothing would happen and the action would die instantly. Okay, we're going to head on over to Consul turn 10, where they're going to spawn, move ×2, unique, fight, and challenge. Pretty busy Consul phase, let's see what happens. Okay, as we start the Consul turn, you do see that there's been a little bit of shift in figures. Mugashaka, we would have moved her one over, and Chompers, actually you get forced off the wall when you take damage. If the Consul damages you, the Consul decides where you go, If you succeed the armor save, you decide which direction you go in. You basically just move right off the wall, that's it. So that's what you see there. And as we enter into this phase, we're going to start moving everybody. I'm sorry, spawn happens first. So everybody heals up that's existing there for the enemy. And now we're going to start moving around and positioning guys to get to key locations, to get the best shots at everybody. And I do believe Druthalion has slurped at this point to gain 2 threat. So this way he becomes the main target of those who can see him. This tile was really tough with the line of sight because of that massive structure in the middle. And then the manipulation of the wall. And then the existing walls. It was a big line of sight battle here. To see who could see what, who could go where, what their target was going to be. A little bit of manipulation around the board to see how we're going to wind up. But console moves. The ice wall is actually going to come up here because it does expire at the start of the next console phase. But unfortunately, we have another unique action, so they're going to cast it again. And because she can only see Chompers from where she is, she's going to cast it on Chompers once again. And as with before, you're going to have it land on one spot and go out in a straight line. Now the straight line can go in either direction. Here we just played it that it went straight out like this. Chomper's going to make a roll to save, and he does save, so he chooses to move towards Druthalion, helping his line of sight against enemies. Then the 2 necromancers in the back are going to go, which is going to be against Druthalion, who is going to fail the first save, but he is going to take the free Druthalion reroll that they get once per phase. You'll see that on his card. It's the keyword, the Forever DM. Now you have Chompers has to save against the Plague Burst, which we've seen before, and he's going to roll to save it. And I do believe he succeeds on this one. He gets a 5, and he's all good to go. So now we're going to go on to the rest of the attacks, where we're going to have those 2 Plague Casters in the back target Druthalion, who's going to make his saves as normal. And he makes the first one, I believe. And then the second one. Oh no, I'm sorry. He fails the first one and he sacrifices the crystal token for Mugashaka's Poke, and the second one he saves. So there you go. Then we have the Ice Mage is going to go. And based on line of sight and wrath, she's actually going to she's going to target Chompers, who's going to fail the first armor save. He's going to roll and try and make the second armor save, which he's also going to fail. And that is unfortunately going to be 1 dead bear. Not great for Chompers that turn, but you know, it happens. It's all part of the game. That's why you play. With the console phase behind us and a dead Chompers, we're going to move on to Hero Turn 11, where it's Druthalion and Obor. Let's see what we can do. Druthalion is going to go first on Hero Turn 11. He has a Shield Sweep ability, which, as in its name, is a sweep ability. So if I put him in the center of those 2 enemies right there, he's going to swing and hit them both. Now, 2 great things about this is it causes knockdown, and it adds a red strength to the attack. It is 2 action points, so it's a majority of his actions, but it's well worth it because that knockdown ability really puts a hindrance on the enemies. So, first one gets hit, successful damage, knocked down, which is great. Gonna roll on the second one, which I believe is a miss. And right here, we're kind of going to talk about it as a group, whether or not we want to use the free reroll I get once per phase with Druthalion. So, after some discussion, we realized it is pretty powerful for them to be knocked down, so we're going to use the reroll and try and hit him here. And as we roll, this one's definitely going to be a hit with plenty of stars to boost. And then, with 1 action left, we're going to do 1 regular swing, who I believe we're going to target on the Necromancer, on the Plague Mage, to try and take her out once and for all. But that's going to fail, because it was a sad roll, and we already used a reroll. So, on the plus side, they're both knocked down, they both have damage on them. On the downside, they're both still on the board. Now coming up next, we're going to have Obor go. We decided not to bring Chompers back this turn because there was no real effective way to bring him back and gain threat. And with the challenge on the board that if you start the turn without threat, you're going to suffer damage, Obor's going to move into position and he's going to do his Grape Shot. We're doing a whole thing of sweeps here. So that is sweep 3. It's a dangerous attack, costs 2 extra points. But when we looked at everything he was going to hit, he was going to wind up hitting 3 or 4 targets. And that's worth the action point economy there to try and get them all. So we're going to line up first on one of the minions. It is important to know that these minions do have sturdy. So they cannot be crit or suffer massive damage. They only suffer 1 wound. But still he's going to roll well enough to do a wound. Then he's going to shoot the standard bearer with the grape shot. That's the next roll. And now the big thing is, if the attack is successful, he's going to shove it off onto the nearby foot knight, which I believe is successful. So that foot knight's going to come off. So that's one of the really nice things about the standard bearer, is even though it's a solo model, it's still able to shove off its wounds onto nearby minions, which is really powerful for keeping it alive, because it does give a signature ability of a buff every turn. But again, Olbor's going to keep shooting. He's going to hit the Ice Mage, which he's going to pawn off onto the minion. And with the last attack, we said we're just going to do a regular shot into the minion here, because getting rid of them is really powerful, because 2 sturdy wounds apiece, they're really tough to take down. So we're going to make a regular shot. Hopefully it works, which it does. And that minion is going to peel off. And that's going to be the end of the hero turn. Quick one, but pretty effective. We did some good damage, and we set some status effects out. And we're going to get set up for the next console phase. Alright, going right into console turn 11. Unique epic fight regroup. So they're going to do their special abilities, in which case this damned ice wall is going to come back out. It's a really cool ability. I'm not trying to say it's not. It is so annoying for the way it's positioned on this board in particular that we keep getting blocked off. But after that, you know, we're going to do an epic fight, which means everything's going to be worth 2 wounds, which is not exciting. And then they're going to regroup, which means they're going to head towards the nearest tile dungeon exit. So let's get right into that. So once again, the unique command. Here we are with this freaking ice wall. If you've listened to that, not fully paying attention, it might sound like I said something else. Anyway, so the ice wall is going to cast Ice Wall on Olbor, and that's the unique action that's been killing us. But the nice thing about Ice Wall is, you know, you kind of place it as a group and try to make it fair, try to make it challenging. Mugashak has been locked out for 2 turns at this point, so we're going to put it so it goes, depending what screen you're looking at, from left to right. This way it gives her entry into the combat, because just keeping her back there is just it's not making the game fun. So Olbor's actually going to fail his defense roll, so he's going to suffer a wound and suffer ice. The enemy here is going to regroup, because the 2 people who could actually act and see are knocked down, so they can't do any epic fights, because monsters suffering the knockdown effect cannot receive any commands until the next move command, and there were no move commands this action. So it actually was kind of unplanned that Druthalion was going to shield sweep and knock them down. Wound up being a great boon for us, and gave us a nice turn of not a lot of damage going out. So up next, Hero Turn 12. Hero Turn 12. Muga Shotgun 2 is going to activate this turn. We're going to hopefully do some damage to these mobs and possibly even wipe out that spawn point. Let's find out as we roll right into turn 12. Up first, we got Mugashaka, who is going to unleash her rage of being stuck behind that ice wall forever. And she's going to go with some Chain Lightning. She's going to target it right into that group right there, that whole mob group. First person she's going to hit is the Mignon, the gentleman with the shield and the spear, who's going to suffer a wound. You notice a little jump here coming up. We realized that we didn't remove a die, so we went back and re-rolled it. So we put the minion back. Still wounds the standard bearer. Minion still gets removed. That's why it was put back in the wrong spot. Kind of assumed it was going to happen because you got a nice dice pool, but, you know, just want to keep everything honest on the game. Ice Mage is actually going to get critically hit here. So she's going to take 2 wounds, which is fantastic because that sets her up to get wiped off the board, and we get rid of this stupid spell that keeps annoying us with the unique action. So with the wounds applied, Mugashaka, we're going to count and see how much movement she spent, because we don't remember, because, you know, we're old. And then when she's going to see how much further she can move, she can get up there and get line of sight on the Ice Mage and hopefully take her out with just a standard will attack. So that's what we're going to try and do. She's within range. Let's roll some dice. Boom. Get out of here, she says. Anyway. Yeah, Ice Mage is taken out by Mugashaka. We're very excited about that. Up next, Toons is going to activate. Now, we had a few different ideas of what we're going to do here, and you can see us kind of contemplate it with the movement of the fingers and counting. We were debating killing the spawn point, or really figuring out if we want to take out that other token. So what we wound up doing was we had Toons move his full movement, spend 2 action points to move another 4, and get adjacent to the crystal token across the way. And he's going to actually wind up spending his last action point to pick that up and resolve the arcade plot, which, if you've ever played the game before, lets you know you get to roll a green dice per hero, and any potion heart combination face on the roll will get you a treasure that you can do during the power-up phase, which we actually got one, which is fantastic, and we're going to go right into console phase 12. Alright, here we are, going right into the last documented turn, if you will. This is the last turn on the Mighty Monster chart. Spawn Dungeon Boss, move ×2, fight, challenge, reinforce. So we are in for a wallop here. It's going to be a tough one. Belia, Mistress of Poisons, Lady of Delusion, is going to come out, and we're going to see how she fights. It's going to be quite the interesting phase, that's for sure. Okay, first command they're going to receive is the Dungeon Boss is going to spawn, so she's back there. Then there's going to be move ×2, so the 2 elites from before that were knocked down will actually stand up because they received the move command at this point. Belia is going to move in range of Toons. Standard Bearer is already in range of Mugashaka, who's really the closest threat to them. And the 2 that got knocked down are going to move because it's move ×2. So move to stand up, move and move over. Alright, so now that everything's kind of in place and cinematically facing each other, Toons is going to make his save against Belia's Delusion, which is at the start of the phase, or the beginning of the fight. The first thing she does is a signature action, where you roll on a red die, and if you get a blank, you basically move towards your closest ally and attack them because you become delusional. So now he's going to make a bunch of saves against her attacks, which is really not going to go well for him here. He's going to get spanked pretty hard by the Spider Queen, and like magic, he's removed from the board. Sorry, it was just a bad edit. Nothing I could do about it, unfortunately, but essentially all you missed was me using my hand to take him off the board. Up next, we have the Plague Mage and the Necromancer are going to be attacking Mugashaka. She failed the Plague Burst, Plague Bolt burst attack. Now she's going to take the regular ones, which she's going to fail as well, because we are not rolling so swell on these defense rolls here. And then up next, you have the Standard Bearer, who, despite being more of a support unit, does have a few attacks that hit pretty well, which she's also going to fail. And that's going to be the 5th hit point gone, and Mugashaka is going to be taken out. But just to prove a point of how poor he rolls, he's going to keep rolling, just to prove that he wasn't going to make it no matter what. So we're like, whatever, we'll put it in the video, so it'll be great. Now, the cool thing about this is it did actually create an opportunity to show off something that's new to WOSDEC, where we're going to remove the last 2 Princess Coins to bring them back for the next turn. But unlike regular Super Dungeon, even though we're out of Princess Coins, we still keep on fighting. Okay, so right here you're going to get into the first boss fight round, really, as we're calling it, where you're just going to see this screen in between hero and console phase now, just as a transition and kind of update of what's going on. You can sneak a quick sneak peek at her card right there on the right-hand side. At least the front of it. Can't see the back unless you back the Kickstarter. or sorry, a GameFound crowdfunding platform now. But this is Belia in all her delusion, her art, her card. Again, this will be the splash screen between each phase for the next couple of turns as we take her on in the boss battle. She's pretty powerful, pretty potent, as she should be. So first thing we're going to do as we enter the end of the console phase is we're going to go to the power-up phase, where we bring back Mugashaka and Toons, and we're going to place them adjacent to Druthalion on the board. Now, with them back on the board, Druthalion is going to be the first to activate. He's going to head right on up to that spawn point that we do not want on there, because for those who have not played the game before, a spawn point on the board means that every turn that the boss activates, it heals 3 per spawn point on the board. So by removing the spawn point, not only do you remove potential for mobs to come back, you also prevent the boss from healing that 3 per turn, and that's really, really big. So he's going to swing first at that using his mighty sword, and apparently he's going to roll really well with an 8. So he's going to take out that spawn point, and we don't have to worry about that healing or anything coming from there, which is really, really I mean, that was a pretty much clutch decision. And now he's going to be out of real action and abilities because he's too far from her to attack her. So he's going to spend his last action point to just kind of move back too, and kind of create like a barrier between him and the rest of the party and the dungeon boss. With that remaining, up next, Obor is going to activate. We're kind of debating which target is kind of priority, and we realize that we want this Plague Mage to really get out of here because her Plague Burst is just rocking us hard. So he's going to hit first, then he's going to shoot at her again, and he's going to get a total of 11 stars, which is plenty to crit, and it's going to remove her from the board, which is fantastic because that Plague Burst ability is just, woo, it's taking away our action points where we really need them. Next up, he's going to shoot the Necromancer, who he's going to succeed against. He's going to do a single wound. And then right after him, Chompers is going to go. Chompers is going to follow up attacking the same guy. Obor is going to get moved with his movement to get into position. And Chompers is going to swing. And I believe he swings twice. He gets a reroll here. He takes a Druthalion free reroll. Which, to be honest, we did not use enough in this scenario. And then he's going to swing one more time and miss. So he does no damage, unfortunately. But, listen, he made the attempt. He just came back from multiple deaths. He's doing all right. And then that's going to be it for the hero phase. Alright, we're going to head right into the next boss fight phase, which is going to be Belia going. All boss fight phases consist of the same, which is move, fight, heal, challenge. Obviously, she's not going to get to heal because these spawn points are all dead. But everyone's going to move, everyone's going to fight, and they're going to take swings at the heroes. Let's see what happens. First up on the console phase, or during the boss fight phase, is always, like I said, they always start with movement. So because Druthalion is not on that tile, they're going to go after whoever activated last with the most wrath. In this case, it's actually going to be Chompers is all they can get to. So they're going to go for him. Obor has line of sight block to him because of Tunes and Chomper's placement. So Belia is going to attack Druthalion first with the Grand Illusion, which he's going to pass with a single star rolled on the red dice. Now, she's going to start swinging at him with all her limbs and all the powerful attacks. 4 of them, I believe, at strength 5, which he's going to save. And he's going to keep attempting to save, throwing his shield up, trying to block each one of those limbs from attacking him. Now, while this is going on, it is important to note that Chompers, again, because he's catty-cornered with Tunes, is blocking line of sight to Obor, so they really can't reach him despite Obor having more wrath. So they're going to go with whoever activated last with the most wrath, and that's going to be their priority target. So, first up, Standard Bear is going to start swinging on Chompers. Chompers is not a lucky bear today. He's just going to keep getting hammered and punched and casted on. He earned his golden ankle cuffs on this one. And then he's going to wind up taking 3 wounds in total for the entire turn. So right here we have the Necromancer going to do one less attack on him at, I believe it was strength 3. Either way, he takes another wound, this poor bear. And then we're going to go on to the boss challenge, which is the boss is going to perform the unique command and any mini bosses, but hers is a burst with poison and it casts slow, and she's going to throw that out there, and Druthalion has to make a save against it. It's strength 5. He's going to roll using all his dice plus his automatic success item for 1 star, and he's barely going to make it, but he does make it and he's safe. And that's going to conclude the the console fight of the boss phase, and we're going to move right into the next one. Again, right here, we're just going to go into the splash screen just to let you know that there's a break in the turn there. Chompers is not looking so hot right now. You can see that ability that she used. That's the red action on the bottom there. It's already getting brutal, but, you know, I believe in our heroes, so we'll see what happens. So coming up first in the hero part of the boss fight on this turn is Mugashaka is going to move into range, and now she's going to move right over next to a statue that we're not going to realize she moved into until later in the turn, which will affect how many wounds Belia actually takes this turn. It is an automatic star success added to all her attack rolls. Now, combining that with the amount of equipment she has, she's already pretty powerful. So the first one This is compared to armor 6, so it has to be more than double and at least 5 stars to be a critical. So she's going to do 1 wound, then she's going to roll again and make a second attack, which is going to be a critical with, I believe, something, it was like 12 dice we said here, but then we realized later on that the armor was 6 and that wasn't more than double. Again, because we didn't notice the statue right away because it had gotten pretty late at this point and we were getting silly. But either way, we made it a crit, so we're eventually going to take that back. And then we have a third one, which is going to be just a nice solid hit. And we're going to start discussing things when Toons moves in here. And we're going to see. So right there, I take the hit point away. Even though, again, it technically was correct the way it was. We just, again, we failed to notice the symbol on the statue because sometimes it happens when you play the game. You know, it's all about having fun, throwing back a couple of drinks and laugh with your friends. And at this point, you're going to see a lot of shadows moving from us pointing fingers at each other and like making jokes about how we all missed it coming up. So right now we're arguing about hit points on Belia, but coming up next is going to be Toons, so we're going to count it out, see exactly where he can get because we want to get him next to that statue, realizing how powerful it is. 3, 4, 5, 6. We can get him right over there with his movement of 6, no problems. And then he can unleash Eldritch Blast one more time on Belia. Well, I say one more time, one more set of times. And this is when we go, wait a minute, we didn't apply this statue over to Mugashaka's attacks. And that's where all the shadowy fingers start going, and we start making fun of each other, saying, how could you miss that? Someone's blind. Drew, you're running the game. What are you doing? So again, it's all about teasing each other, having fun, so it's not a big deal. So we corrected the hit points there, and then Toons is going to step up to the plate with his Eldritch Blast and start shooting shadow over Belia. So he's got a decent amount of dice again now from the equipment he's acquired, so we're going to get set up and get that right over to him. Again, made the mistake. It's important to pay attention to the board because those statues are throughout. There's armor statues, there's attack statues, things that buff you just for being adjacent to them, so do pay attention to it. He's going to do some damage here. The first one's going to be a damage. The second one's going to be a nice solid damage. I don't think he gets any crits on this. I think he gets real close once or twice, but I don't think he actually crits. And then here he's going to miss with only 5, but we're going to do the Druthalion reroll. Again, which we should be abusing, and for whatever reason we just didn't on this. But he's going to reroll here. And that's going to be all of Toons' attacks and actions. It's, you know, it was a pretty solid turn in terms of damage. We did a bunch of damage to her, distributing Wrath. And, you know, that's it. Everything, again, was empowered. Oh, I apologize. I forgot. Toons makes 4 actions because of the equipment he has in his bottom slot, giving him an extra action point. So he did make another attack here. Again, we dealt that some nice damage over to Belia. It was a pretty solid turn. Pretty happy with it. Right now, Mugashaka and Toons, by the way, Mugashaka did on her turn, Toons did on his turn. They're going to drink Mugashaka's potion to get that crystal shield token, because if Belia starts unleashing and Druthalion can't grab the threat in time, she's going to lay a wallop on him because she's pretty strong for a boss. Alright, so that takes care of this hero phase of the boss fight, and we're going to go right on to the console phase. Okay, going to throw up the splash screen one more time as we transition between the turns. Boss fight's going to go now of Belia, and we still have that standard bearer alive. Not my favorite thing in the world, but here we are. Let's see what happens. Okay, because of the current challenge in play, Belia's going to target the hero with the least wrath on the tile, which is Mugashaka. She's going to defend against the delusion ability, but she's not going to have any successes against defending against her strength attacks. So she's just going to take a bunch of wounds. We looked at the dice. It's mathematically impossible for her to save against any of them. So she's just going to take the wounds, but she is going to use her crystal token to negate one of them. So she's going to get hit pretty hard, but she's going to survive the combat, which is good. And then after that, we're going to have to move on to the second tile. On the second tile, Obor is going to take a bunch of attacks from the remaining Necromancer and Standard Bearer. We're going to make some rolls right now and see how he does. Now, remind you, his armor is only 3 blues. So, because of how buff they are right now with the Standard Bearer's ability to buff everyone around him, they're hitting pretty hard, and I don't think he makes a single save on any of these. But, again, he's a dwarf, so he's got some extra hit points. He's going to survive just fine, and by just fine, I mean he's not dead. So, that's kind of a win. Alright, we're going to move right into the next hero phase. We're doing pretty good here. Belia's got a bunch of wounds on her. Our heroes are all still standing, even though some of them wounded. I think we're going to be pretty good, or in pretty good shape to really stick it to her this turn. Let's see what happens. So right here, Druthalion is going to move on up. One of his pieces of equipment gives him the ability to do massive damage if he succeeds with the attack. So, granted the attack dice here aren't fantastic against an armor 6 enemy, but 1 green, 2 reds, not mathematically impossible, and I got that free reroll. As you can see, the first attack is a swing and a miss, unfortunately, but like I said, we're going to use that the forever DM reroll once per phase, try and get her one more time with it, because if this connects, she's done. And to everyone's disappointment, he still misses. So, coming up next, he's going to try again, swinging with just his regular sword attack at this point, and we're going to see what happens. Hopefully he connects, which he will miss. And he also picked up an ability to have an extra action, so we're going to try one more swing, try and do something here, put 1 damage on her, so this way if someone else damages her, she will go down. Let's see what happens. Nope, and unfortunately Druthalion is just a big disappointment this turn. So now Olbor's going to move. He's going to move into position. He's going to get within range of Belia with his gun. He's going to try to do some basic range attacks. He has quite the dice pool. I'm really rooting for him here. I think he can do it. He's got, I don't remember the exact number of dice, but it's somewhere he's got like 7 or 8 dice that he's rolling here. He stands a really good chance of taking her out. So, with that being said, let's take the first roll and see what happens. He is going to miss. He only gets 2 successes on that one. So now we're going to go with the second attack. And that one is going to actually succeed. I think it gets about 11, which is not enough to crit, but it's enough to put a damage on her, which is great, which means she's 1 step closer to being defeated. And then we're going to do a third attack, which is, again, going to miss. I blame myself. I should have saved the reroll for someone with that many dice as opposed to just trying to go in and kill him with Druthalion, you know, and get that heroic save, but that's on me. So now Chomper's going to try and get some revenge for the beating he's been taking this whole game. He's going to lash out at the Necromancer and get 6 stars on his roll, doing a nice solid damage to him. He's going to try and bite his face off one more time with a nice little attack roll here. You know, he's pretty strong. The Necromancer's pretty powered up at this point, but I still believe it's possible for him to get it done. Let's take that dice roll. And unfortunately, he is going to fall short of the second set of wounds. Yeah, so a little bit of pride there, a little bit of hurt ego. We did not take 2 wounds off of her to win the day. So here we go in another console phase of the boss fight. Completely unexpected. Okay, we're going to start moving the enemies into position here. While we do, it's very important to note that the heroes have to defend using their will stat for defense only, no armor stats. So we wind up slurping and shifting some threat around to put Mugashaka right at the top. It's because her will stats and dice are fantastic now from all her equipment. Belia's going to move. She's going to try and position herself a little different to try and get more people kind of in her line of sight so she can have a free range of targets as she goes. She's going to open up first against Mugashaka with obviously first the Aura of Delusion, where we have to roll that single red die and pray for not a blank, because if it is a blank, she's going to have to attack a nearby friendly ally. Fortunately, it's a potion, so we're okay. She's not going to betray us this time. So up next, she's going to take all the normal attacks from Belia, and let's see how those defense rolls go. Alright, first attack, we're looking pretty good. Got a lot of dice here. 2 greens is really, really powerful. It means for the most part, you're probably going to get at least 1 star from each, so that's really good. Second attack, we're going to do really well. We're going to defend again. Here comes the third attack. All those spidery limbs coming at us, but Mugashaka's like, I got this. I got a shield too, buddy. So she's doing pretty good. And then we have another attack, and we're looking alright here. Looking like everything's going to be A-okay. And now Chompers has to use his will, which is, I believe, 1 red, 1 blue, to defend against 3 strength 5 attacks. It's not looking good for this poor bear, who's he's just been a beat stick for this whole game. He's just been beaten down. We're gonna make the defense roll. He's gonna fail, and that's gonna be Chompers dead yet again. So I think at this point we're just gonna let a dead bear die. Alright, going into the next hero phase of this boss fight. We're hoping this is the last possible phase. She's sitting on 1 health left. We got Toons and Mugashaka up. They're pretty powerful. Someone's got to beat her at this point. Alright, so we're going to have Toons activate right away and try and take her out. Like a fool, I move him away from the statue that gives him +1 automatic success. Realize the folly of my decision and push him right back. Because, as you play the game for a while, you just want to do something thematic and realize that it may not be, the best tactical move. So we fixed that. Going to roll some dice. First one is going to be a wound. And it's here that I realize I can't do math and I have been staying in the wrong hit points the whole game. And she actually has 1 more wound left, which Toons is going to get. And that's it. That is a defeated dungeon boss, and that is the first playthrough of the Plague Throne, meaning Super Dungeon. And that's it. That's how it works out. That's how it plays. Plays just like the old game with some minor modifications. It's just some different rule updates. Thumbs up all around on the dice board apparently. And listen, it was a dungeon crawl. We had a good time, and hope you all enjoyed watching. Thanks so much for checking it out. Catch you on the next one. Let's go about my other videos I'm going to post here.